Welcome to the Global Leadership Podcast, where leaders of all sorts come to grow and expand their influence in healthy and holistic ways, because we know that when the leader gets better, everyone wins. I am your host, Whitney Putnam, and it has truly been such a joy to get to be the host of the Season 8 podcast. And this is actually the last episode that we're releasing in December. And so I simply want to say to you, Merry Christmas. At the GLN, we hope that you and your family and your friends all have such an incredible holiday season, getting to rest and enjoy one another's company, as well as the real reason for this season. Now, we know that this month we've been exploring conflict, which might seem like a topic that doesn't fit nicely or neatly into December, but we know that we live in a world where conflict has only escalated and tends to escalate around the tables that we'll sit around at holidays. We hope that this conversation helps as you sit around the tables during your holidays. Today, we get to listen to a conversation between Michael Jr. and Craig Groeschel. They sat down together at Global Leadership Summit 2024, and Craig interviewed Michael Jr. about some really great work that Michael Jr., along with his wife, are doing around the topic of conflict. Michael Jr. does a really great role play, an actual role play with Craig about how conflict internally affects us. And maybe you're wondering or you're experiencing conflict in your own life. The incredible work of Michael Jr. that he helps us begin to notice is the conflict may not just be happening externally around us. There's a really good chance that we need to explore internally how the conflict is impacting us to become free of the conflict happening outside of us. We can't wait for you to get to listen into the conversation. And before we do that, let me just share a little bit about who is entering into this conversation. So Michael Jr., he is an actor and an author. He has worked all over the world. He's been on The Tonight Show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, and he's also been on TEDx Talks. He uses comedy to transform thinking and help people find freedom, peace, and healing. And then Craig Groeschel is the one that is interviewing Michael Jr., and he's the founder and senior pastor of Life Church. Life Church is the creator of the YouVersion Bible app, installed on more than 500 million unique devices worldwide. He's the host of the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. He's also the New York Times bestselling author of multiple books. And again, they really do get into a role play of how conflict externally can impact us internally. We're excited for you to get to listen in to the conversation. Let's dive in now.
It is an honor to have you on the podcast.
Dude, I love you, man.
I love you too. You are genuinely a very dear friend, and I admire what you do, look up to you. And I want to try to get you to talk without being funny for a whole 30 minutes.
Okay, let's do that.
Or 3 seconds,
yes.
Whichever comes first.
Let's do it. I need you to speak without any explanation points for the whole time, too.
Yeah, that's going to happen. So, so I was actually trying to write down some thoughts about you because a lot of people may have heard your comedy, but you're actually a very thoughtful, very sincere, very serious person, and your comedy, in my opinion, not only is it some of the funniest out there, not only is it clean, but it's very purposeful. And you also lead people. You have a heart behind what you do. And so, and what's interesting is comedy can even be a real tool in leadership. So I was trying to put words to this, see if any of these work for you. I was thinking leading with laughter, levity and leadership, the lighter side of leadership, leadership and laughter, witty leadership wisdom. Do you like any of those?
Ooh, witty leadership wisdom.
Yeah.
I like that. It has a good ring to it.
That was the wild card one I brought in the end.
No, that was dope.
Yeah.
I like that. Like those just came off the top of your dome?
When you were talking in your presentation, I was working on ideas because what I want to try to do is I want to try to pull out some of your thoughts of how you use humor as a leader. And it's especially, you and your wife are doing the tour right now.
Yeah, Funny How Marriage Works.
How Marriage Works, and you're specializing on conflict.
Yeah.
And so let's just start there. Leadership, conflict, and humor, how do those things mix together? Why are you talking about them?
Well, everything that you just mentioned right now is really cool because comedy can be used in leadership, but it can also be abused in leadership. And what I mean by that is maybe I need to have the tough conversation, and for some reason you don't want to have that conversation, or maybe you need to encourage somebody and you're not comfortable encouraging them, so you just crack a joke instead, right? To kind of break the tension. But sometimes the tension doesn't need to be broken. Sometimes it needs to be utilized so you can go to another level in the relationship and with whatever the leader is trying to accomplish. So if you're not aware of that tension, you don't know how to utilize it right, and you have a sense of humor, it can diminish the entire process.
In a correcting conversation, would you ever use humor, or would you say probably not?
It depends on the situation, because even as I'm talking to the individual, I do this thing. My wife refers to it as secondary listening. I call it listening between the gaps. So when I first started doing comedy, and this will be one of the 14 rabbit trails we'll go on. This is heads up. So when I first started doing comedy, I would be on stage and there would be a question that I was asking, even though I wasn't aware of the fact I was asking this question. So I'd get up on stage and I would be presenting, say, joke number 1. But at the same time, I'd be doing the math in my head on what I think joke number 2 should be. And then after I locked that one in, I would do the math in my head on what I think joke number 3 should be based off how are they responding to joke number 1, and probably will respond to joke number 2. Then I move on to joke number 4. I actually used to go 7 jokes deep, and I'd have a 7-joke rotation going on in my head the whole time. And the question I would be asking in between the gaps is, how can I get laughs from this audience? But then I had a shift take place, and I realized the question needs to change. It should be a question of, what can I give to this audience? So when a leader's having a conversation with another leader, like whatever you're doing in life, there's gaps. My question is, what are you asking in between them? Is it a question of what can I get, or is it a question of what can I give? And if you're a leader out there and you don't know the answer to that question, I think you know the answer to that question. By default, it's what can I get? So even in those conversations, what I would do is I'm listening in between the gaps. I'm like, is this a place where I need to break the tension, or let the tension be there for a minute so we can get to a better place? So that's the goal. So each individual, each situation may be different. The key is to do some secondary listening as opposed to thinking about what you're going to say next.
So I've got questions piling up based on all you said. I want to go to the tension. How do you deal with first? I want to talk about the secondary listening. So let's say you're having a developmental conversation with me. Are you doing most of the talking? Am I doing most of the talking? And when I'm talking, what are you listening? What is a secondary listening tool? How are you using that?
So I'm listening, and I'm also looking there. Erwin talks about the frequency, right? I'm listening and I'm paying attention to that frequency, but I'm also looking you in your eye and listening to the face. So as an example, when I opened up the conversation just now, I let all of the listeners hear, and because it's true, first thing I said to you was, I love you. You went down a little bit right after the words, I love you, right? So I'm listening to that, and I'm paying attention to, okay, does he notice? Is there a better way I can express it? I'm just really, I'm looking at everything I could possibly listen. And now originally this came from survival, right? I had to survive because I wasn't able to read as a child. So I had to look at all of the other cues in the room to figure things out. Now I read just fine, but I have this ability to read in areas that I didn't before.
Okay, so it's fascinating to me that in comedy, I would think you're mostly scripted and you have a map, you have a plan, but you also can call audibles, and you could create a new series of 7 jokes. In a developmental conversation, I'm guessing many times you want to come with a framework of what you want to communicate.
With just with another leader,
leader to leader, or maybe even in a marriage, if you want to, we want to work on an issue. If you're coming in and saying, "Hey, I want to work toward this conclusion," or work to resolve conflict, are you going off script often? Are you are you doing the same thing?
Yeah, I'm showing up aware of the fact that I probably won't know what the script is, because I can only write my portion of the dialogue. I have no idea what actions they're going to add to the script, or what words they're going to add, or the drama they might add to the script. So I'm showing up with a portion of a script, but it's wide open. It's written in pencil, because I may need to change mine at any point. So I'm showing up with a punchline in mind, with an outcome in mind. And I'll even say out loud, "Hey, so what's the outcome for this meeting?" Or I'll tell them what the outcome is, and hopefully we can get there. But if not, I have to be agile enough to listen. And maybe this is a time where I'm going to learn and then regroup and then come back with what I think the script should be, so we can get to the punchline that I'm hoping for.
Okay, so let's say we work together and
We're doing it right now.
Let's say, you care about me, but I'm being really disrespectful, and my attitude is creating a problem with others. And so you're coming in to help me, whatever. What are you going to give me if you're not trying to get something from me? But what is your attitude coming into that conversation? I'm disrespectful. I don't see it. I think I'm right. Everybody else is a bunch of idiots. What's going on in your mind as you're coming in to help coach me?
So there's two things that's cracking at that point, right? One, I have to pay attention to if I'm offended by what you're saying. If I'm offended by what you're saying, I'm not in a position to help you, because now I'm in a position where I have to protect myself, whether I'm aware of it or not. Like I'll get a little stronger, I'll get a little more stern, I'll start thinking about how much authority I have. So the first thing I'd have to do is deal with whatever's going on in me. And once I've cleared that out the way, now I can see you for who you actually are. I can see the fact that you're hurt. Something happened at home. I'd start doing the math on what else may be going on, because the thing that you would be showing me is just a front. Like, it's a way to protect you from the hurt that's behind there. So I try to look through it and say there's a hurt. In fact, your attitude is confirmation that there's a hurt. So if I show up triggered and then I allow my hurt, now we're just going to go back and forth, and we both get to leave with a conversation or a story that starts with the reason I don't like that guy, right? And then whatever you believe, the number one thing people want out of life is they want to be right about what they believe. So if I believe as a result of that conversation that you're not a good person, I'm going to now start my reticular activating system is going to start finding evidence that you're not a good person. But if I can nip it at the bud and get internally curious first as to how is it possible that this person was able to say this to me and it make me feel this way? How could he take me off my 9? So we have this thing where we say, on a scale of 1 to 10, every day you should expect, 10 being amazing, every day you should expect to be a 9. The reason I say expect to be a 9 is because you're probably not going to be a 9 every day. But if you expect it and something like that conversation takes you off your 9, it'll trigger curiosity as to how did this person take me off my 9. Then you do the work to get back on your 9, even in that situation, and you actually develop some compassion for the person. Not only because you can see through the guard that they had up the wall, but also they helped you get free in the area. So if someone else shows up with that same attitude, you're prepared because of the original person. It just puts you in a really great place.
So you're helping marriages, and it's pretty obvious that a lot of marriages need help. What do you think is different? Why do you think there's possibly more conflict today than maybe in the past in marriages?
I think there's a lot of pressure because people show the highlights of their marriage online. Like, they look so happy. Really, because there's Photoshop.
How often does that happen? Like, you see your friends and you think they're amazing, and next thing you know is like they're falling apart.
Dude, this one of the things that have given me and my wife Ebony such a heart. We have a couple couples. We got one couple. We were so close. We went skiing. Black people don't even ski. Like, I went skiing with these people. We skiing down these hills and do all this stuff. And I don't know, 5 months later, it's over. We just went skiing. Like, you took me skiing for the first time on the bunny trail, falling down. We had laughs and they're laughing, and now it's just gone. And I really think one of the big things that people are missing, it's almost like every time a couple has a disagreement, the one thing they go to is compromise. It's as if there's a door called compromise, and that's the only door. But is it though? Like, is there another way? And what we want to do is we want to show people a different door that gets them more opportunity. Because
what's a different door?
So for example, let's say Amy wanted to eat pizza 6 days a week. Right? Yes.
Now you're being funny again.
Right. No, my bad. Sorry, you said that with an exclamation point too. So let's say that she just decided out of nowhere, hey, we should eat pizza, right? 6 days a week. And you're like, I'm not eating pizza, right? So now you got a conflict, right? So what you could do is you could say, okay, 3 days a week. You could come up with some sort of compromise. But if there's a compromise, who got what they wanted? Like, nobody did, right? And who's more happy or who's more free? So most conflicts go through the compromise door. But if you said to yourself instead, if her suggesting pizza 6 days a week upset you in some way, if you got internally curious, you may actually find the real reason why you don't like pizza like that. Aside from the facts and the nutrition, aside from that. Like, because how could eating pizza cause you to be upset with your wife? Like, you really got to get curious about that. So there's new doors called curiosity, and there is absolute freedom on the other side of it, like in a big way. So, but it's not external curiosity. You can't be sitting there like, why does she want to eat pizza? She know I like pizza. Why is she? If there's a solo reason for your problem, and it has a character, I mean, it has a name, it's a person, that means you're not in control. So if there's another person who, if they did a thing, your problem will be solved, you're missing something. It's actually something internal. So what we always say is, well, if they could just do this, or if we could come to some sort of compromise. If a bridge was compromised, you wouldn't drive over it.
Correct.
Right? If a nobody wants to compromise a computer or compromise immune system. So why would we purposely create a compromised marriage? Compromise is great. It's like a spare tire. It can get you to the next destination, but it's not designed for the long haul. And some marriages and some leaders are running around with 4 donuts, wondering why the ride is so rough, and they're ready to get out the car.
Compromise, and it falls apart.
Exactly. It's like sweeping, because whenever you compromise, let's say you had this big fight over the pizza, and now what happens after that? Well, you really don't want to talk about pizza anymore. You're like, I don't want to talk about pizza commercial, come on. You're like, nah, Little Caesar, we're not having a fight in my house. So now you got to sweep it under the rug, but now there's a lump in the rug. And now you wonder why your spouse is always tripping. Like, there's a lump in the rug. And then the more you compromise, the more lumps.
So I'm going to make a statement, and agree or disagree, just comment on it. So would you say, fair enough, that most conflict in marriage and leadership isn't about the issue, but about the inability to work through conflict? True or false?
About the inability to work through conflict.
So are you fighting over an issue? It's the issue. It's you're not paying enough attention to me. You're working too much. You're being loud. You're late to work all the time. Is it about the issue, or is it the inability to work through conflict in relationships, or both? Or what? How does that?
It's actually about the conflict, but not the secondary conflict you're referring to. There is a conflict prior to that one that's been taking place. In fact, it's been going on for a while. It's just that life is presenting you with people and opportunities, people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free. So every couple we meet with, the husband will say, my wife does this and I can't stand it. And then I'll say to him, oh, cool. So let's say she slams the door and you don't like it. And he's upset and he wants her not to slam the door anymore. Great. But my desire, me and my wife tell him, I actually don't want the spouse to not slam the door anymore. Because what does that do? It's just a compromise. And then I ask him this question: before you met your wife, was there anybody in your life who used to slam doors? And they'll sit there for a minute and be like, you know, my sister used to slam the door all the time. That was probably your original opportunity to get free, but you didn't get it. So now you have another opportunity to get free from that exact thing. So to answer your question, I feel like the conflicts we have with our spouse is the second conflict, because there's a first one inside that's causing it to manifest on the outside. So the exterior conflict is just an opportunity to get internally curious. But if you don't, you'll maintain an external furious. You just continue to be furious.
As a leader, you don't have time to do it all. That's where Belay comes in. Belay has been revolutionizing productivity for over a decade. How? Flexible, fractional staffing solutions. When you work with Belay, you hit the ground running with trusted executive assistants, bookkeepers, and social media managers. By delegating tasks like content creation and data analysis to these experts, you can focus on projects that nobody can do quite like you. Belay has helped thousands of busy leaders just like you gear up for the path to success with the undeniable power of delegation. To show you the ropes, Belay is offering a free copy of their book, Delegate to Elevate. So if you're ready to get your time back and empower your team to achieve more, just text the word GLOBAL to 55123 to download your free copy today. That's GLOBAL to 55123. Discover what the power of delegation can do for you with Belay. And a huge thanks to Belay for sponsoring today's episode.
So earlier you talked about the tension, and let's say we're in a developmental conversation with someone at the office, or we're working through an issue at home, and it gets tense. It seems like some people are real comfortable there, and other people bail out. What do you say to the person that walks away from conflict and doesn't know how to deal with the tension.
Man, this is great. So we have a workshop we do, or a master class that we do, where we show people their conflicts. Like we'll have a group of people and we'll actually we'll insert their conflicts and we show them what they do. So if I can remember, it's a visual flow chart, because that's what flow charts are, they're visual.
The good ones are.
The good ones are. So if you imagine a conflict, his and her information, and then the next stage is when after you hit the conflict, because one person believes one thing and somebody else believes something else. And in fact, I'll say this, if you have a lot of conflicts in your marriage, it's confirmation that you're supposed to be together. Like it can be seen as confirmation.
Slow that down, because if that's true, that's good news for some people right now.
Oh, absolutely.
If you have a lot of conflict in your marriage,
it's confirmation that you're good for each other. Because
tell me more about that, because that sounds confusing.
So the conflicts were internal before they became external. And you've been set up with a person, if you get curious, who can show you the conflict so you could get free. We've actually met with couples. There was one couple who not every day, they wouldn't fight every day, but it was uncomfortable every day because he wanted the heater at night at 72 degrees.
Now you're actually getting into my business right now.
Let's go. What's your temperature?
So, like anything below 73.
So you wanted that. What's your opposite?
Lower.
Just
lower.
anything
lower.
lower. 68?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So watch this. We're going to do the thing. Okay, so imagine you're laying in a bed with your wife. Imagine you're laying there, and it's 74 degrees. Just imagine it right now.
I'm on top of the covers, by the way.
Right. Imagine that you're there. How do you feel right now? What emotions are coming up for you right now?
I wish we had it lower.
Yeah.
Frustration.
Wow. So have you ever been anywhere prior to meeting Amy where it was warm and you were uncomfortable laying down?
Back when I was in college, we had no air conditioning.
Wow.
Zero.
In college.
Yeah.
No air conditioning. Huh. And then what'd you do back then?
Slept on the side of the covers with the window open, the fan, hoping nobody came in and killed me in the middle of the night.
Right. So now you're sleeping in fear while it's hot. So is there a chance that when you get in the bed and it's hot, that on some level, some fear kind of shows up that you may not even be aware of because of the temperature, as opposed to, and Amy wanting the temperature higher is actually getting you an opportunity to get free of that. And I'll actually submit this to you because it's happened time and time with couples. After you get free from the thing, and we can do this off air, after you get free from the thing, she's probably going to want the temperature actually lower. Why? Because the assignment is over and you did the work and got free of the thing. Now both of you guys are chilling at 71 degrees and it feels amazing. You didn't compromise. Instead, you got curious and removed the conflict. In fact, I'll submit to you that even having this conversation has your brain thinking, wait a second, what about that? And what'll happen, it'll start to recategorize that story to, I'll say tonight, Amy, I know you're here because everywhere Craig, he's got this insecurity.
She is here with me right now. And we slept at 71 last night, by the way. So that's how amazing she is. Yeah. And I think I am free, actually.
I would love Amy to go to, I would love y'all to do 73 tonight, just to see if there's a little difference.
For her, I'll do 74.
Wow.
That's how much.
But I want you to be comfortable at it, not uncomfortable. And I think even having this conversation, just getting aware of it, not having done the whole process will actually bring you a little more, just because we got internally curious as opposed to externally.
So here,
curious.
yes. So I missed it the first time. Every time you said curious, I was hearing curious about the other person. And you just said it, and I'm sure you said it earlier and I missed it, but not externally curious, internally curious.
Right.
So when you're saying in conflict, I should be curious, it's not just the why is someone else hurting? How can I help them? It's what is my role in this?
Absolutely. Because
so give me some questions. We're fighting. I'm arguing with you. You're late to work again. You can't be late. You're like, whatever. I need flexible times. What am I curious about me?
Yeah, so let's flip it because I don't want to work for you. So so what you want to do there is you just think about it. The fact that I'm late has taken you off your 9. Mm-hmm. How is it? Like, you just got to be like, how is it actually possible that that me not being somewhere on the earth at the time you wanted me to, how could it actually take you off your 9? Mm-hmm. And it just so happens that there's 9 fruits of the Spirit. As you're a pastor, you probably know this. I'll go.
I can name them if you want me to, but I won't.
Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and some other ones, and then self-control.
Faithfulness and stuff. Yep.
So in that moment, when this employee shows up late, you have lost one or two of those fruits. In fact, depending on the situation, all 9 of the fruits are no longer available to you in that moment. You have to be curious as to how is that possible? Like, what happened here? So when a whale, for example, is having a baby, I don't think they have babies. I think they have calves. Yes, they have calf muscles. Anyway, so when a shark shows up, they could be in the middle of delivering, but when a shark shows up, delivery stops immediately because it's not safe any longer. So it's no longer safe. The baby is still there, but the delivery can't happen. The fruits are still there, but for some reason you can't deliver the fruits in that moment. So the key is to get curious as to how is it this person cannot make my fruits available in this moment? Why did they take me from where I expect to be a 9? So watch this. It's the 9, and I need you to pay attention to it because I know that you can think about what you're thinking about, right? Because I read this great book about that, right? So watch this. It's the 9th time and I'm late, and I want you to actually think about me being late, right? And you're upset, and like you're really, really mad. Where do you notice the upsetness?
I would say, like, part of it is on me. I feel like it's my role to help you be there on time.
Yeah, I get it. So I don't. So I don't want the necessarily explanation.
I would say it would be disappointment.
Disappointment. So watch this. So Craig, now what I want you to do is I'm late again, and I want you to recognize the disappointment. But I want to see if you could feel the disappointment somewhere physically. If there's an actual location. Where do you notice it at physically?
Probably from the head to down to my toes.
Okay. With you, I would actually say that's the case, but see if you can pinpoint. See if you can,
I would say in my neck.
Neck. Yeah. So watch this. So how is it possible that you think about something on the outside of you and you feel it on the inside of you? James 4:1, what causes the fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from the desire that battles within? So we just actually found a physical location of a desire within, but in order to fix it, you're changing the things that's on the outside, hoping that this employee can be on time. But the employee actually doesn't have the ability to be on time because what if, this is only a question, what if the employee was there to reveal to you an area where you're not free that you just found in the back of your neck? What if that was the thing?
That's entirely possible. That there are issues that all the time that if we can be spiritual for a minute, that God would use to help humble us, change us, conform us to the image of Christ. And so, someone could be there for that, but they still have to be on time.
I agree, but if they're on time or not, your desire, I would guess, was to be the same person each time. So if they're on time and you're happy, great.
So I agree. I wouldn't want their actions to dictate my emotions, my mood, my leadership. But I would want to know, how do I work through the conflict with them?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, this is the crazy part. If you work through it with them, you're gonna come to some compromise. If you work through it with you, you'll come to a realization. And then I'm telling you, that same employee, let's call him Melvin, because I'm not a late person. Melvin, remarkably, I'm telling you, he will be on time from that point forth. And or you won't even notice it because there's your reticular activating system isn't looking for the threat of him being late.
So I will say this, in that vein, I now embrace super flexible work schedules because that's the culture we live in, and people have all sorts of. Some people can't get into work till 9:30, and so like I really have to do that, and that's actually hard for me because I've kind of like 8 o'clock start time. 8 o'clock is kind of late in my opinion, but culture's changed today, and so I acknowledge that there are times we have to be flexible like that. I want to hear, we're about out of time because
no, we're going to keep going, buddy. I haven't done a joke whole time out of respect to my friend. I'm just playing.
But
this is so dope, dude.
I really love the fact that you guys are helping marriages. I think that's super important, and we got a lot of people who might want to find out more about how they can learn from you. Tell us where do they go?
So what they can do is they can go to funnyhowmarriageworks.com. We have a masterclass and we have a workshop that people can the workshop they can do online. The masterclass is more intimate and personal. So we're doing that. And then we're on tour doing Funny How Marriage Works tours all over the country. Me and my amazing wife, Ebony. I know you believe that Amy is awesome. She's awesome for you, but I'm telling you, if there was
You got a great family.
We're
You got a
just
great family.
so blessed.
And so tell me about your 5 kids.
I haven't seen them in a while, so that we don't talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. No. My 5 kids are awesome. You talking about the 5 kids or the 5 grandkids? Because we got 5 and 5.
Yeah, 5 and 5.
We got a basketball team. I mean, some of them are in Pampers, so they probably can't play that well. But we got 5. We're 5 and 5.
See, we had 6 kids, and that's a basketball team.
You got somebody on the
with
bench.
A sub.
That's a lot.
With a sub. Why don't you end it with a joke? Out of nowhere.
Really?
Out of nowhere.
That's how you want to do this?
Of course we got to do it that way.
Okay.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all. What would I do? Okay, so people ask weird questions. And you probably get this question a lot. As a leader, I'll just say as a leader because this is a leadership podcast. But if it was a podcast about plumbing, I'd be like, as a plumber. So people get weird questions. And I get this question often. Michael, where are you from originally? I'm like, originally? Huh. Well, I was conceived in Michigan. Before that, I was with my dad. Then there's a swim competition. And I won, which is crazy because currently I don't swim. I just want to say that. So take your time, share that one with the kids. It'd be great. Thanks for having me do a joke with no studio audience. This is great, Craig.
They can laugh
that.
right
Way
now.
to put
Everybody laugh. And there's a studio audience. Michael Jr., thank you for your time.
Dude,
and
I just absolutely love you, dude.
love you too, man. Thanks so much.
All right,
Well
cool.
done.
What a fascinating conversation between Craig and Michael Jr. I absolutely loved getting to hear them actually role play what it's like to experience external conflict and begin to ask internal questions and get curious. I know that it's something that I certainly want to start really, really thinking about when I face conflict. And let's be honest, we're going to face conflict. I know that I face it within my family. I know that I face it in friendships. I know that I face it in the workplace. And this is so helpful for me and actually a new way for me to start exploring conflict in my own life. And I hope it does the same for you. That if I'm experiencing something outside of myself, that conflict would trigger a thought inside of myself of, why am I experiencing this? Why do I feel so negative around this? And start asking myself those questions. And I hope that you can do the same as well. Again, what a neat conversation between Michael Jr. and Craig. And you guys, we really do mean it when we say thanks for joining us this year at the Global Leadership Network and being a part of this podcast community. We do wish you the merriest of Christmases and a happy new year. As a leader, we know that you are driven to leave an impact. It's what leaders do. And it's the same for us here at the Global Leadership Network. One thing that's really special about the work we get to do, just even beyond the summit and resources like this podcast, is we get to come alongside under-resourced leaders and we give them excellent resource material so that they can go and reach their full potential. In fact, just since August, we have been able to produce over 180 summits in over 50 countries, reaching 65,000 plus leaders. And we have hundreds more summits planned over the next few months. And this happens because of the generosity of our donors who want to create a wide and deep impact in the world. And so we invite you to join us. For just $39, you also can help equip an under-resourced leader so that they have access to premier leadership resources so they can go on and reach the potential that they have within them. So would you join us and go to globalleadership.org/give and give $39 today and leave an impact within an under-resourced leader that will ripple into eternity. And as you wrap up your year, we would absolutely love to hear from you. If you're pondering how your leadership journey went in 2024, and if this podcast played a role in it, would you leave a review for us and let us know? David and I love to read them, and we will make sure to read them out loud and be a part of your journey. So thanks so much if you do leave a review. We read every single one. And finally, a giant thanks to Belay Solutions for being our sponsor for this podcast episode. And again, Merry Christmas from the Global Leadership Network. We are so glad to be a part of this leadership journey with you.